Hi, everybody. That we should not be angry at men's errors is the title of chapter 18 of book one of Epictetus's Discourses, and I think this is an important discourse to sort of remind ourselves about how easy it is to get uh, at other people's mistakes that they make, and then not quite put the same train the same sort of lens on ourselves and our own mistakes that we make. So Epictetus starts this discourse out, and he talks about how we all how we seek action. We decide what we think's right and what we think is true, and then we take action towards that. What we think is right, what we think is true, what we think is the best for us to do. We don't. If we think it's not the best thing for us to do, we think if it's not true or if it's not the right thing to do, we don't take action in that way typically. If we're unsure, then we hesitate, and that's sort of the default, I think, human mode of thinking. So, in Stoicism, the hard part then becomes, determining what is true for you, what is right the right thing to do, what is the best thing to do, and then understanding when we don't know, then also accepting that, and so there's a lot of potential for error in that, obviously, for all of us, and so why then do we get upset with other people when we feel like they've made an error, and we get angry at their error when probably they have acted, they have taken those same sort of steps that we did, and they have acted in the way that they thought was true, and that the way that they thought was right, and so in the way that they thought was the best way forward for them. And so someone in the discourse then mentions, oh yeah, but what about thieves and robbers? And they steal stuff from you. Shouldn't they be put to death? And Epictetus is like, no, because their problem is, the problem with thieves and robbers is that they don't have the knowledge to be able to determine what's right and true. And then he cautions then the person who asks the question, if you have really nice clothes and you're hanging them up in the window to air, and then they get stolen, then you're putting the person who stole them probably thought that having these nice fancy clothes was a sign of being a good person, and so is that why you have the nice clothes? Like, because this is another thing that Stoicism sort of questions. It's like possessions, and it's always concerned with being really aware of what's truly valuable in a person's life, and it's the lesson there is that everything other than ourselves is impermanent. It's in a constant state of change and flux, and so really the only value is to cultivate ourselves, because ourselves is our ultimate possession. And so the loss of these fancy clothes hanging in the window, you should just go by and either not hang your fancy clothes in the window or not be concerned with having these expensive fancy clothes that got stolen. Likewise, another person brings up, that they had an iron lamp in the window and it got stolen, and then so the next thing they decide to do maybe is to get just an earthenware lamp instead of the fancy lamp. So anyway, it's concerned with this kind of this discussion is concerned with the impermanence of things and putting value in possession, and that losing possessions is something that's part of everyday life for us, and not just possessions but status, money, other people, because none of these things are permanent. Even people that you love and are very dear to you, they're impermanent. There is a really good chance that they will die at some point. They could not only die, they could move away, fate could take them elsewhere. So they are impermanent fixtures in your life, in their current status. So the Stoic is always concerned with making sure that no loss disturbs sort of, that's this sense of inner tranquility. And then in the discourse, another aspect that's discussed is this idea of physical pain. I'm not sure where this pertains to the mistakes of others, other than the fact that Epictetus is making this lesson again about, maintaining our inner tranquility. And someone says, what if I get an earache or a headache? And this is one of those things where it's out of our control. So the pain, for example, a headache, may be out of our control, and it's okay to groan, Epictetus says, and moan and groan because it's painful. But the ultimate thing is, as long as you're not groaning in your spirit. So if you're moaning and groaning because your body's in pain at the moment, that's one thing. But if you're groaning in spirit, like, why do I have this headache? And you're mad, you become angry that you got a headache. This would be, something that Epictetus would say that a Stoic would need to work on, because that was then you were groaning in spirit rather than groaning in the physical. So he sort of likens this to an athlete. The person cultivating this ability is like an athlete who might have to have multiple rounds in a competition, and they may not be in their. They may need to perform even though they're tired. They may need to perform even though they drink too much, or there's some other thing going on preoccupying them. They still need to sort of bring that to bear, and in order for this, for these multiple events. And he likens that to life, where a successful person, an invincible person, he calls it, is a person, meaning a person who can't be defeated, is a person who, whose will cannot be swayed. So whose sort of inner self, inner strength cannot be moved based on the actions of others, or based on things like things that happen to us, like physical pain. Epictetus uses the words, as far as, there's a person, let's say a theoretical person, and they're being offered these things. Maybe a little bit of silver doesn't, offering them a little bit of money doesn't sway their will, doesn't sway their, inner strength, but maybe offering it in the dark, or offering it in secret, or offering some other kind of thing like sex, or I think he mentions, can't remember the other kind of analogy he uses, but these types of things that if they sway your will, then that's actually a sign of that you need to work on more on your inner strength. So I hope that kind of made sense. So anyway, I think the gist of this discourse was about how we all have to come to arrive at our own decisions about what's right for us and what's the best way forward. And some people don't even begin to do that. And if they don't, you can't get angry with them because you can't make them do that. And so really, Epictetus actually says in the discourse, maybe they should be pitied rather than, punished as far as criminals went, like thieves, because they are really not They don't appear to be like in control of their inner life, if they feel like these things are important enough for them to do these sort of acts. So I think I'll leave it at that. It's basically the age-old Stoic lesson of understanding what's in your control and what's out of your control, and the mistakes that other people make are definitely one of those things that are outside of our control. And when we think they impact us, we need to stop and say, how is this really impacting me? How did it really affect the real me, the inner me? And if that's just the loss of some nice clothes or some money, then we still have ourselves intact. So what have we lost? So that's sort of the lesson that I believe that Epictetus is trying to deliver us in this discourse. So I'll leave it at that. The next chapter is chapter 19, and it is called How One Should Behave Toward Tyrants. So tyrants come in many forms, not just governmental ones. And so that'll be interesting. So stay tuned for that. Take care. Bye.